Obviously, you want to keep pushing in terms of what you're trying and keep wanting to better yourself with each record. But I feel like the leaps between them are getting bigger too. How do you feel about that? I feel like definitely this leap between what you've done, Fandom, and Greatest Hits is the biggest gap so far.
Probably so, and I think it's a couple things. I think one, seeing or like being stuck at home and seeing the world kind of shut down and all this stuff. I'm very about like smooth transitions, between like stylistic stages. I like because it feels very inorganic if somebody has like their like you know screamo alternative, pop rock, whatever it is, kind of thing, and they try and go like full pop, and they're like, no, this is just who we are. But I'm like, you didn't do it naturally though, and so it feels disingenuous. I think that I was more like, fuck time, fuck waiting, da da da. Like it made me more impatient being home. So I was just like, I'm doing everything. And on top of that, I think since I had more time to, create and just make weird sounds and like demo things out and all that stuff, I think I got to like learn a lot and like hit a lot of things that I wouldn't have necessarily found so soon. And so I think it's a combination of those two, being like, one, fuck it, we're doing it all, we're going big, and like actually having the ability myself, because when I'm in the studio, I like to just like go. It's not a lot of like, well, let's try this. Let's try this. It's like like when we get in, it's like song's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this gave a lot of time for me to find the most like weird left of center, almost like out of pocket stuff. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell you how many like Halloween sounds I went through making like see you in the future and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, see you in the future.
Like having earned it, like when acts have to kind of earn that change in sound a little bit. It's like, acts often talk about world building, and normally they'll talk about it in terms of like building a plot or building characters or whatever they want to do around it. It feels like you're doing that in a musical way, like you slowly but surely. And like I say, I think the biggest leap this time, but it's about bringing in more and more of those different sounds into this Waterparks world, right?
Well, yeah, and like wanting to just make as many different styles as you can, because when it stops being fun and fresh and exciting, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like touring itself is already like, it's very fun and it's rewarding, but it also can get like monotonous.
Yeah, of course.
And so if you're not pushing the boundaries like everywhere you can, whether that's sonically or like show production wise or whatever, like I just don't see me like, I mean, you see how fucking easily I get distracted and like see new things. Like I won't want to do it if it's not fun. And like, who's got like the best transition that I think I've maybe ever seen?
John?
I think you might already know. I was going to say Bring Me the Horizon.
They clearly are trying, actually in a similar way to you, to constantly bring in those things into the world, like we're saying.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like I see them do, like, I mean, I know where they started. Like I have those albums like 2 feet that way. Dude, I got hella CDs. Look at this.
Nice.
But I'm saying like just watching them go from that to like, that's the spirit, to like even the stuff they're putting out like right now, like it's all just like, it changes style wise so much. You know what I mean? Like not only is it consistent, but it changes. And I think that's awesome. Because like not a lot of bands are willing to do that. Or if they do it, it feels really corny, or like they're like basically putting on somebody else's clothes and being like, now it's this. And it's like, but they've done it in a very smooth way.
You seem to be in a very collaborative mood. And that's not to say that you weren't before necessarily, but it's always very much been the vision of you guys there. And it's just quite nice to see that not only with all the guests on the album, but you look at what you've done outside of Parks as well, things like the collab with DE'WAYNE and all this stuff that's kind of happened over the last year or so. Is that kind of, have you noticed that as a change in yourself? Is that kind of something you're becoming more and more open to, I suppose, that more collaborative spirit?
I think it's a couple things. I think, because yes, definitely have become more. I think being alone all the time made me want to collab more. And I hope this comes off okay, but as good as I feel like I am at like writing and like, you know, production and finding creative ways to do things and all that, I know that other people are so much better than me at other things. I'm not the like, and I never want to be like the fucking best in the room at everything, because then I'd be like, why am I in this room? And I feel like, because like when I gave Crying Over It All to Zeph, I knew, like, I didn't give very much instruction. I was just like, hey, just layer this up, harmonies and stuff, do your thing, do whatever, pretty free form, just go for it. Because when I listen to her stuff, like she'd always send me demos and everything, and or even like on her Instagram stories and stuff, like she'll post like the acapellas of like stuff she's working on, and it's just like, oh my god, like there's like 20 layers of vocals and they're all just doing like random swells and like all this cool shit, and I'm just like, whoa, that's insane. And so when she sent back all of the vocals for that, it was the same kind of thing, and I was like, god damn, that's not something I would have thought of. And it's no longer like me sitting at this desk right here, you know, working on Double Dare or Entertainment or whatever. It's like I think you can only go so far alone. And if you happen to have friends and people that you like around you that are incredible at other things, I don't see why you wouldn't collab with them, because like I think at the end of the day, all I want is the best album in the world.
In terms of like lyrics and stuff on this record,
yeah,
you've always talked about personal stuff to an extent, but I feel like, we'll see if you agree, I feel like on previous records it was very heightened and not quite as clear cut as this. It feels like this is where you've been very open, even if it's down to things like Violet Happened, you know what I mean? And like things like that, you're being quite upfront about that. Or even, you know, You Be Paranoid too, where it's got tongue in its cheek, it's still quite open in a way I've not seen you before. What do you think kind of brought on your approach to lyrics this time around?
I think there's multiple reasons for it. I think one, most people just don't look that deep into stuff, and I want them to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like Entertainment, the whole fucking album's metaphors. The whole thing. And I think with stuff like Turbulent, just getting to be like, fuck you, and you know, and da da da, like, you know, I wish I, you know, like whatever. I think that was in a way kind of more cathartic. I feel like, and this isn't like an objective truth or anything, or like an overall thing. This is just for me. I think it's more cathartic to be blunt than it is to, and that's not to say like metaphors and like, you know, keeping things more poetic isn't good. I mean, I want to do that. I kind of want to, part of me wants to lean a little back more on that, but there's just something very cathartic about just saying it, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, and like it, you know what I mean? Just getting to like talk shit.
Yeah.
For like verses, and I had even more verses written, but I was just like, I just want to be this like a punk song, like a very grungy punk kind of thing. But what's funny about Like It is I was like, I want this to be like a punk song. And the drums are just straight up like 90s hip hop beat. The guitars are like industrial, kind of like metal riff, like you know what I mean? It's like, and the vocals are just like, again, I hadn't even made this comparison until our friend Josh, who did the vocals on Gladiator, the talking, he was like, oh, it's so Beastie Boys, I love it. I was like, I guess it kind of is, huh? But so I was like, none of this is actually punk, but like when you put it together, oh, and all the like pirate and cartoon sounds and shit, it sounds punky. But I just wanted that to be like a short, concise thing. I just totally lost my train of thought, but now I'm back. So I think that it was just more of a release just to say stuff. And I feel like a lot of people don't look that far into like super, like, you know, people that are very into the band will, but sometimes I also just want someone who hears 10 seconds on TikTok to know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's direct. It's the most to the point, I guess is the way I'd put it. It's really, really directed in your face, this one.
And lyrically, I just didn't want to waste. It's not, and again, not like the others are wasting time, but I didn't want to waste any time. I just wanted to get to it and be like, this is what this is. This is what this is. This is what this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, you got a lot to say over those tracks, man. You got to pack it all in.
Sure do.
Yeah, that's the way to make it work. Hey, here's something before we get on to more stuff from this year. I know you hate looking back, but we have passed now 5 years since Double Dare. And I know that's not, it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's crazy, crazy to think. And the questions I always like to ask about, oh, he's found something.
I got the Japanese one here. But this is so cool. I wish these should have been on it. Hang on. How do I turn this bitch? Here we go.
Oh, sick, yeah, of course. That's
the bonus tracks, dude.
Yeah, man.
What we do for fun is one of the coolest songs from this album, and it's not even on it.
No, you're out there in the US on the tour at the minute. Again, feels like a fuller experience. Feels like it really matches the era very, very well, this live show you're doing, man. Talk to me a bit about, I guess, developing that and figuring out what you wanted to do, putting these new songs up on the stage.
Went through a lot of different stages with the production before ultimately decide. This was the first idea for it. I was like, I want it to be like, we can make it look like thunder if we want to, and make it really dark and moody and full, no lights around us, just silhouette from this, and have little bits of lightning and stuff, because it's full cloud wall. You know what I mean? But I wanted it to be massive. I want to be we can either be in a fucking storm and we're gonna die, or I want it to glow. You know what I mean? Light gold, and have it pulse and be yeah, we're in fucking heaven right now, or a sunset or whatever, all this stuff, but while still keeping the doors and everything. And someone actually asked me at a Q&A the other day, symbolism for the door stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess we talked about it, but I mean, there's a lot of lyrical things with it on the album. And I think being in my apartment so much for that long, it was kind of a thing, because it was just I was always just kind of looking at it, you know what I mean? Or I'd be making stuff, going to sing in the closet, going to do whatever, going to all this stuff. And so it felt right to kind of bring those, and we have the three doors hovering in the clouds and stuff. Have the red, yellow, and blue bikes and everything, because that was my only escape during all of it. And it's representative of, conceptually cyclical fandom and greatest hits. But it just felt like the best way to do it. And especially because I could come up with crazy production all day and come up with all these different things, but you also have to take into consideration the rooms you're doing. Is it indoor? Is it outdoor? Is it 500 people? Is it 2,000 people? And you sort of base these things on that. And you're what can work in different ways? You know what I mean? So I think it's the most fitting. And I think conceptually, it's probably the best pairing we could have had visually for this album.
Yeah.
But someday I think it would be so cool to collab when we get to do those fucking arena shows. I think it'd be so cool to get to bring in someone who does that shit for a living, who's done it a million times, because especially your first time through, you don't always consider your options. The first time we went through and did House of Blues type venues, I was I don't know, video wall? Yeah. You know what I mean? And thought still went into it, but you don't especially the first time or two around, you don't understand the capabilities, or you don't necessarily understand what can and can't be done. You don't know what your limits are, and so you just kind of be safe, or let's do what we know works. So, man, yeah, I'm excited to eventually start collabing with someone on that.
One thing I do want to mention on the live show as well, we've talked about it before, but I saw Mikey popping up the other night. Just talk me through that, because what a joy it is to always see that man on that stage.
I know, man. That was so cool. Um, I mean, we're always talking about like when we can do stuff because he loves playing shows and he fucks with water parks and stuff, which is still crazy. But um, we, I was in Nashville maybe like 3 weeks before the tour, or no, like a month before, and we hung out and got dinner and stuff, and we're just talking about. He's like, dude, I want to play one of these shows. I was like, okay, great. I mean, he's gonna be in Nashville, so I was like, how about Nashville? And anything else you want to do? Fuck it. And he's like, definitely Nashville. It'd be cool to do more. I'm like, you're right. You say the word and you're in.
Man, so cool. And he learned that set, like half the set list pretty prompt, right, as well.
Yeah, man. Well, so he already knew some of it. And I was just like, you know what? You let me know what you want to play. We'll switch up the set after. Because he'd be like, I want to do this. Like, if here's the set like written down, he's like, I want this one, this one, this one, this one, this. And so we were like moving stuff around. We're like, all right, cool. But yeah, no, that was so fun.
What would you say is your proudest moment of 2021?
When you said, what would you say? I was ready for the next color of your hair.
I can't end every interview like that, man. Can't do every single one.
Every night I hear your voice and everyone starts cheering.
Oh, that's sweet. I've seen some of the clips online. I do like that they try and shout along at the end when I'm just rambling as well. That's really funny.
Yeah. So good.
So sweet.
We get a few words in and then they realize what's happening and they start. He goes, we're backstage in London. And they go, I hear those few words and I'm like, all right.
We talked before the record came out about what you wanted to learn from fandom and all that kind of stuff. What do you feel like are the learning points from greatest hits, or have you not thought about that one yet?
I have. I think, I definitely don't want to talk too much, especially because I also don't know way too much.
Sure.
Right. But I'm a shitty liar. I think that the one drawback that I've had with greatest hits, it's not even a drawback with greatest hits, it's just the way in which it was consumed, I guess.
Right. How's that?
I think that because it's so long, and it's not even long runtime wise, it's 17 tracks is like intimidating to some, especially if you're not like a diehard listener. I think some songs kind of got like overlooked or underappreciated. And because like, I don't know, there are certain ones where I'm just like, fuck, man. I wonder how long that one's gonna stay underrated. Like the production on See You in the Future, fucking insane. But it's not even like in the top 7 of like the most like listened to. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Or like Magnetic, or like, dude, Crying Over It All is like one of the fucking best songs I think Waterparks has ever put out. And like, I don't know, I feel like they just get super overlooked. Like American Graffiti is like I kind of made that song as like I was frustrated one night at like how dog shit I feel like a lot of alt rock stuff that was coming out at the time was. And I was just like, this is so fucking uninspired. I'm just gonna make like the way fucking cooler version of what these people are trying to do. I was like, I'm gonna do the perfect mix of like Jimmy Eat World and like Death Cab and like, all these people. And then just throw in some like real wild production. You know what I mean? Like that outro is so fucking pretty, but I feel like a lot of those get overlooked because there's so much. And there's also a bunch that we can't put on the set because it's literally 17 songs. We're already playing for like an hour and a half every night, which is a lot. And I think that, and we're not playing like I think 6 of the songs And you know, and for every song we're not playing, people are like, "Fuck you!" I'm like, dude, there's not even time. and and I don't know. So I feel like what I'm getting at is next album will probably be more like, I don't want to say concise because it's not like greatest hits isn't. It definitely goes on more tangents because I mean that was like the point, but it'll probably be shorter.
Right. Interesting.
Just because it's, I mean, it doesn't like it's not in a way where it like affects me where I'm like depressed about it, but it is a bummer to make Crying Over It All and feel like it's like not being like, or it's being overlooked because it's not a single and there's a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And I still want to, and it's kind of like, what's the point if, like, what's the point in creating something where you're like, this is the best, and it not getting its time, you know?
Yeah, that does make sense. But I guess that's sort of, I suppose, I think we may have talked about it before as well, but that idea, it's that hip hop thing, isn't it? Where the album isn't king in hip hop. It certainly felt like rock, and particularly alt rock, was the last bastion of like clinging onto that idea of we do the album, then we do the tour, then we do the album, then we do the tour. Whereas actually everyone else is like, here's an EP, here's a couple of singles to tide you over. Right. Here's an album and it's maybe 10 tracks long, and here's 3 more new singles through the next year. Like everything gets its flowers in that way. Is that something you've kind of thought about in terms of, because you could drop a couple of standalones if you wanted, you could do anything you want in terms of that release structure, surely.
I'm cool with singles. I don't really want to do EPs anymore.
Okay.
Mainly because I feel like I would rather just do, 4 singles or release them as like a pair. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think fun because then even if somebody hates one, they'll probably like the other. But I think that I would probably just do either singles or like pairings and then drop another album.